Okay, so I did not wire cut the piece. Put my back pins back on, and I usually like to make sure that it's somewhat in center still. Sometimes what's really weird, and some people have this experience, other people don't, but sometimes if it seems really off center and I swore it was really on center, I rotate the bat, I do a 180, and then I'll spin it again, and sometimes it seems very different. So I would take the time to do that if it seems off center. So I threw these two style of lids. All right, that one is way too big, but I think that showing you how I would go about adjusting this is a good idea. And this one still is a little bit big, so I'm gonna start off with this one because I still do have to do some adjustments. So first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take my fettling knife and I'm gonna cut as much of this off by hand as I can. And I'm going to cut it as smoothly as I can too, because I don't want my trimming tool to catch and grab in any areas that maybe I cut very rough. So I'm trying to cut this pretty smooth. The more I cut, the less trimming I have to do. What I always do is make sure that I have just a small piece of plastic draped here. I'm going to take this lid and I'm going to turn it upside down. And it's pretty centered because it's sitting on top of this. And I'm just going to lightly finish trimming this. It should still remain in a curve. So this is why I explained to cut it nicely so you're not gouging it, and if there's multiple areas that your trimming tool could just cut and drag and pull off, that would be bad. This is also, so please don't think that, oh, whatever, I'll just cut it and I won't trim it. This process of trimming it like this is also helping to compress the clay. This, unfortunately, is a big one that will do S-cracks right here, right in this little area. It's very common. It's probably more common than anything. So by me going back and doing this trimming here, and putting pressure with my finger, pressure back and forth with the trimming tool is gonna help resolve, ideally, any of those cracks happening. So really easy, and now, I have this luxury of being able to just pick up that plastic, not have to take a tool and gouge underneath it to try and pick it up. So if I wanted to do any fine tuning on this, on how it's fitting, which I do, I'm gonna still use this plastic. Now for me, what I like to see for this lid is that the top of this lid does not exceed the height of the vessel. It could be level, that's fine, but it should not exceed. So this one exceeds it slightly, so I'm just gonna make sure it's centered. That's the first thing. So it's a round object, so you're gonna have to play with this, tilting it back and forth to get it to be centered or level. So I'm gonna hold the knob and just lightly trim. So the plastic, because I am putting some pressure on the lid right now, that plastic is helping that lid not stick to the form underneath. It does happen, even if the forms seem dry. And if I trim really well, getting these two apart, I will have to then maybe take a knife, take my metal rib tool, and without a doubt, I'm gonna wreck it. So just remembering to put that piece of plastic in is really important. And that's looking much better. Now, I did create a very sharp edge when I did that. So what I want to make sure I do is go back and use a sponge and really clean this up. This is way too sharp. So just using a sponge, I don't have to go back and start trimming it. But this is a much nicer fit. Once I feel satisfied with this, I will then take my wire cutter, wire cut this. Most of the time, because it's stuck on the plasti bat here, it's not going to be ready for me to trim, because whatever's touching this stays damper. This is way more damp. So don't have the expectation that as soon as you trim the lid, you're gonna be able to cut it, flip it, and automatically trim. It's not gonna happen. You're gonna need to probably cut it, put it in front of the fan, let it sit for a little bit. Once these two are complete, what I recommend, it can go to the cart and immediately dry. Please put your lid on the form and dry them together. If they are not together, they will shrink differently and will not fit together anymore.